Welcome back to the Rest of Us podcast, watching now on CouchSoup. I don't know what I said. I said all the right words, maybe not in the right order there, but it's the Rest of Us podcast. We're taking you through all of the Last of Us content that you'll ever need, and today was the season 2 finale. That was a bit of a
Already.
cliffhanger. Jeez.
Oh boy.
A bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have got the crew here again. We have got Orn,
Hello.
and we've got Nick.
Hiya.
And we've got me, Ian.
Yay.
Lily is
Back.
still not very well, so I've just taken on responsibility, taking it on to myself. I'm the host with the most of nothing. So we got a bunch to talk about, and hopefully we're not gonna be very, very sad about this because we've got another like 2 years to wait till the next series probably. So let's just get on to our non-spoiler reviews.
This episode was weird. Um, Not in terms of like the episode itself, but it was weird because it did not, to me, if you ignore the last like 5 minutes of the episode, it did not feel like a season finale. It just kind of felt like the next episode kind of thing. I sort of wanted things to build up and things like that. There were elements of it. There were elements of hinting at the war between the Seraphites and the W.L.F. and the massive thing that we're going to see next season that happens on the island. And then
Non-spoilers, Nick. Come on, non-spoilers.
well, no, well, that's not a spoiler for the episode, but they hinted at some things, but it didn't feel like it was building up to like a big climax. And then we just had like it just kind of happened at the end. So it was a weird episode. I'm not sure I'm crazy about it.
It's funny. You and I have been almost on the same brainwave the entire time. And I agree because with finales, it is. It's that build up through almost the whole episode leading up to the end. I have the same issue as I've had almost the entire season. We needed more time. Things felt a bit rushed. Some things were unnecessary. Some things were really good. There was just like a whole mixture of emotions and opinions and thoughts. All around, I thought, especially the last 5 minutes were the best part of the episode.
Oh, hmm.
So good. It was indeed a kind of weird episode, but I was okay with it. I was, as in, not like okay with the weirdness, but like I was okay with the episode itself.
Look, this episode did some really good things. It did some really good things really, really well. Perhaps even better than the game in some aspects. But you are right in this doesn't feel like a finale. It feels at best like a mid-season finale.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At best, there's you know how finales get like a crescendo of music, maybe a montage, all the threads that you need to start wrapping up and after the cliffhanger. It didn't
Mhm.
feel like that. We just have this massive cliffhanger at the end, and that's it. It could have
Mhm.
been an episode cliffhanger, basically. And that's the taste that I'm left with. It did a lot of really good things, but am I disappointed after the credits rolled? Maybe a little, you know?
I think that's exactly how I felt as well. Is like you kind of get to the end of the episode, and it's almost as if the episode brought up more questions than it answered, which is kind of what you want for a finale is to like raise some questions and you're like, oh, I want to know, so that you'll tune in for the next season. But you kind of need a little bit of closure at the end of a season. It's always a difficult thing because you don't want to close all the loops so that people have nothing to come back for. But at the same time, we need some kind of closure. I feel like this episode just didn't give me that.
All right then. I mean, that's our non-spoiler stuff. We better get onto the
We
spoiler
better.
stuff.
Let's do
Let's
it.
just
Let's
get
go.
onto it. Let's spoilers. Spoilers all now. If you've not watched the end of series 2 of The Last of Us, this is your warning. Go away and come back later once you've watched it and maybe played the game, and then come and watch us because we have some insights, I'm sure. Spoilers from now on. Character by character. Let's do Ellie first. Unless you want to leave that to the end.
I kind of do want to leave that to the end so we
Yeah.
can get kind of like the smaller things out of the way.
I want to leave Jesse to the end as well for a very specific reason. because it's his end.
Oh,
That's so good.
that was as abrupt as the actual ending of his character.
I know. Let's
Mm,
go Dina then.
yeah.
So Dina felt like she was not underutilized in this episode, but she was way less of a focus than she's been.
Hmm.
But I really liked what they did with her character in this episode. That scene where Jesse had to push the arrow or the crossbow bolt like through her leg was brutal. I was like, just take it out, and then I was like, oh, but it's okay. Yeah, I see what you're doing, but still. And the way that she was like, I can't die, and then she refused the alcohol. I was like, ooh, that is badass. And it's really good writing if you're gonna come back to that. And they came back to it, and I freaking love that. Dina, I was like, are they gonna do anything with her character in this episode? Is there anything more for her character in this season? And they added a little bit, which I really like, where Ellie comes back from her ordeal from last episode, and they recreate that scene from the game, which I really like, which is where Ellie has her shirt off, and you see her back, and it's just full of like battle wounds, and Dina's sort of cleaning her up and stuff, and you have like a moment there, which is really nice in the game. But I really like the scene in the show as well because Ellie turns around and tells Dina the truth about what Joel did and about all that stuff, and it looked. I think this is really well played by Isabel Merced.
Hmm.
Obviously throughout this series, which is different from the game, is she looks like she wants the revenge just as much as Ellie because she really liked Joel as well. And in this scene, just the way she plays it, I was like, ooh, is she kind of like changing her mind? Is she maybe a little bit pissed at Joel? Because she seemed to kind of not accept it, and she was like, ooh, really? That's the truth? It's almost as if she understood why the WF did what they did. And I was like, that is really cool and could be, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but could be a really cool dynamic for the beginning of next season or what they do with her character. Because obviously, we know in the game, big spoilers for the game, we know that Dina and Ellie have a fallout towards the end of the game where Ellie decides to really go after Abby again in Santa Monica. And is that maybe hinting at that moment kind of thing, showing that Dina's maybe sort of thinking, oh, I don't know, Ellie, this whole situation's a bit much
Mhm.
for me. So it almost seemed as if Dina in that moment was like, yeah, this is getting a bit much for me. And I can see that there's a lot more that I wasn't told kind of thing. So that scene to me was really, really good. And I like that sort of progression for Dina to kind of be like, what the fuck am I doing here? I'm pregnant and there's like a war going on and this girl who I love is not telling me the truth. I thought it was a really cool, poignant scene.
Yeah.
I think so too. Because at first I was like, oh, interesting there that Ellie's telling about Joel because in the game she doesn't tell anybody.
Hmm.
And I did think that that was a great way to do it because in the game it's not like in your face that nobody's really the good guy, nobody's really the bad guy, and that Ellie and Abby basically mirror each other. You just kind of get that through the gameplay and going through everything. It's just how the gameplay is done. And in this show, I really liked that they told about Joel because now we can see a little bit more poignantly that they are doing the exact same thing as Abby, and Dina's having a little bit of that regret. So I did think that that was a really good choice.
I mean, it's smart to bring her motivations back in line to the game.
Yeah.
Dina's motivation throughout this is that Joel's her dad figure, and she loves him just as much as Ellie. But she didn't have a clue what he'd done in the past. He was just lovable carpenter guy, lovable construction guy. You know what
Yeah.
did he ever do to anybody? Nothing, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Actually, he killed a bunch of people in a hospital and maybe killed the guy who may have been able to make a cure out of Ellie's brain. But apart from that, he did nothing. He's just a lovable construction guy.
Yeah.
So,
Just
like,
very
her
sweet guy.
motivation has moved from Joel Dad to I only really care about Ellie's now in this circumstance.
Mm.
My whole basis of revenge is rocked. I just want to get out of here now. But yeah, she was a trooper. That arrow, jeez,
Took it like a champ.
took it like a champ.
Seriously. I really enjoy it when people do things correctly because like in a lot of like movies and TV shows, they just like pull it out and like they just put a patch over it, like, oh, you'll be fine. When really that'll like make things way worse or make you bleed out and die. And here, Jelly,
Jelly.
Jesse,
Jesse. Yeah.
I'm mixing Jesse
Joel.
and Ellie's name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jelly.
You're just thinking about
That's their
jelly.
friendship name. Um, is he explains like if I pull it out, it's gonna make things way worse. It'll rip things, whatever. I have to do it this way. I loved that so much. So great job, writers, for doing that. I appreciated it.
Gonna briefly touch on Tommy. Tommy's here. I mean, that we don't see
Oh my
anything
gosh.
of Tommy.
Thank goodness. I have a little bit of
I,
uh a theory.
I mean, you've
Not an
got
issue or anything.
the sniper thing.
Uh-huh. In season 3, I think we're gonna get Tommy's side of it.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get that, which I'm thrilled about the potential of that happening. It was nice having Tommy show up and
It
doing a
was
little bit more of what he did in the game.
mm,
Like when they're talking in the theater after some of the big stuff, and he's like, yeah, they basically got what they deserved. And are you okay with Abby living? And it was nice seeing the game interpretation of him a little bit more in the show. So that made me happy.
I would have liked to see a little bit more out of Tommy in that sense
Hmm.
because Tommy's there, but it's kind of, I mean, they kind of sort of explained it in the previous episode where Jesse arrived, or the episode before that, where Jesse arrived because Jesse said, no, him and Tommy are here to find Ellie and Dina, but it's never explained like why was it Tommy and Jesse? They probably are the two most capable in Jackson, so it makes sense from that perspective. But it was like, why those two? Why are they here? Kind of thing. I wanted a scene to kind of be like they didn't hint at it, so maybe it wouldn't have made sense. But I would have liked maybe a scene for Tommy to say that, of course I'm here. Of course I want revenge. I came here to
Hmm.
do this as well, but
He
we need to go
doesn't,
back now because Dina's injured. It would have been nice for him to sort of say something like that, but he doesn't in the episode.
but he
So it's
doesn't
kind of
want
like
that. I think you're wrong. I don't think he wants revenge. Like
that's
it,
that's that's what I'm saying is I want that from this character, and I'm like, why has he come all this way? And
to
it's
get his family, just like Jesse. That we're gonna get onto Jesse, but Jesse says, "I know that if I was missing, you would scorch the earth to find
mm,
me." Jesse's
Yeah.
doing the same thing for Ellie and Dina.
yeah.
So, and it's the same for Tommy. They just want to protect their family.
At
If
least the
some
show version, yeah.
Yeah, if some of the wolves get killed at the same time, bonus. But actually, I'm gonna go with my family back home. Thanks.
Yeah.
In the game, when Ellie takes the boat and is going to the aquarium, there's a bit where you don't go directly to the aquarium. You instead go to just like a couple like side areas. You could go in some of the buildings and snipe some of the W.L.F and Seraphites to make your way through. I want to see Tommy do that. I want to see that parallel. I think that would be a cool way to tie in a section from the game into the show to show more of like, because we know Tommy's a sniper and we've been hearing it. I want to see just like that specific location. I think that would be cool.
I think we'll definitely get something like that in season three. It's the one more thing I wanted to say about Tommy is that I think that he not necessarily will get like a bottle episode, but I think that there will be an episode that's like half focused on him because obviously Abby's going to be the main focus in season
Yeah.
three, which we'll get into later. But I think we'll have an episode where it shows what Tommy did when he split up with Jesse, what he did to kind of get to where they are. And I think there'll be half an episode of Tommy sniping and taking guys out. I'm really excited to see because Tommy's journey we don't actually get to see in the game, and the
Yeah.
show I think are very much that they're going to show exactly what he gets up to. So I'm very excited to see what they do for Tommy in
I think
next
it'd be
season.
great.
He's in Seattle, and that's what we wanted.
He doesn't leave off in very healthy spirits, though. He's under under Abby's boot, let's say.
hmm He hasn't been shot though,
Not yet.
Not yet.
not yet.
Not yet.
Is that because I was trying to remember how
Spoilers.
it happened in the game, but he gets shot early, doesn't he? In that scene. Ellie and Jesse pop out, and exactly as they do in the game, Jesse takes one to the face. And then I think Tommy's on the ground. He tries to get up immediately after that, and I think that's when Abby shoots him. Trying to
I
remember
think
if that's exactly where it
I'll
happened,
be
but we
so
didn't
honest.
actually.
I
I
don't
I
remember.
remember, maybe I'm remembering wrongly, but I remember the shot to Tommy's face is Ellie's opening to try and get away from Abby. But I think I might be wrong.
I went and looked because I that's what I do. So Abby gets there, they have a little confrontation, saying, I let you live. Tommy ends up getting up and trying to tackle Abby, and he ends up laying down on the ground because Abby pushes him down, and that's when she shoots him in the shoulder.
Slash face.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it
And
right
then
across his face? Like
Mm,
blinds him in the one eye?
but yeah, so he gets shot basically after what we saw in the show.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So that'll
Yeah.
be episode 1 next season.
Okay. I mean that's Tommy because he's not really in it much.
No.
I'm drawing this out. I'm drawing this out. Let's do some W.L.F bullshit. Because this is my least favorite part of this
Ooh.
whole thing. I really like Isaac and Jeffrey Wright, but this is definitely a TV moment for setup of next season rather than actually
Hmm.
being needed in this episode. You're being led breadcrumbs that there's some other things going on in the world, and it doesn't really matter to Ellie's journey at this point, apart from seeing some boats go across the water to an island, um, maybe getting taken by some Seraphites, and then forgetting that they had someone when some explosives go off. But it doesn't mean anything to us. That conversation with Isaac and Elise, it is Elise, right? Elise, we saw her in the hospital, the flashback
Yeah.
ages ago, where Isaac describes that he's been doing some succession planning, and Abby's that succession plan because she's a good soldier. We don't really care
We don't know
about
her.
Abby at the
Hmm.
moment. I don't give a shit.
This
Yeah.
this is this is exactly where I was saying that this episode felt really weird because I mean it was something I discussed earlier in the season was that I was worried that they weren't going to do enough with Isaac. I really liked what they were doing. They were showing us this character that we didn't really get to see much over the game, and it was really cool. I don't feel like it was necessary to show more in the game, but now that we're in a TV show, we had that opportunity to show more of it, and we showed a little bit of what the Seraphites WLF war is looking like, but we didn't get enough of it. It's like you say, it's these breadcrumbs of like little morsels of like this is what's happening between these two
Mhm.
factions, and this is the tension that's building and things like that. And then it's the whole season. It felt like we got little flashes of the Seraphites and the WLF. And it was just they exist in the background. They're almost like the infected in the first season where they didn't actually feel like a
Ooh.
threat. They didn't feel like because when you play the game, you are literally going through the middle of a war zone, and it's constant threat of like there's infected everywhere, but there's also WLF you have to navigate, and then you have to try and navigate through an army of Seraphites, and it's constantly there's stuff going on both sides, and in the show it just doesn't feel like that's happening. You kind of our main characters get to this theater and I mean, in the game, I had the same kind of problem. Is that they hang out in this theater for 3 days and nobody finds them, even though they've got lights on and shit, and like nobody knows they're there. But it kind of just felt like the infected in the first episode, first season, where the WLF and the Seraphites felt like, cool, it's happening, but it's not a threat. We don't have to worry about it too much. And then when Ellie gets abducted by the Seraphites in this episode, it was like, oh, okay, now they're a threat kind of thing. It just felt a bit like this whole thing's going on. Tell us more. But the problem is they were giving us morsels, like you say, Ian, that they're setting up things for season 3, and they didn't give us enough of it in season 2. And I get that you want to set up the
Yeah.
next season, but also, like I say, we need that closure. We need something to happen because they've given us tiny little snippets of what's happening here, but we don't have a story. There's nothing there yet.
Yeah. 7 episodes is weirdly short. Even for like an
So
HBO
short.
series, it's usually like 8 to 9. And I think last season we had 9, I'm not mistaken. And I can't find a definitive answer as to why it was so short. There's like a couple of like theories of like Craig and what's his face? Wow, I forgot his name. I was up way too late.
Neil.
Craig
And
Mazin and Neil
yeah,
Druckmann.
and Neil
Okay,
Druckmann.
yeah.
I forgot the creator's name. I'm so sorry. Where they could have been like, well, we just want to wrap things up to get to season 3, or like maybe there was like a SAG after, or like SAG issues, or like something with like the higher up executives wanting things to be a certain way. There's like several theories to go which way. I'm just really disappointed in whatever reason it was, even if it was all of them. And if it was a SAG problem, fuck those people for not giving, actors and production the things and rights that they need to have to make these. This season was already like really good. I really enjoyed it. It could have been so much better if we had a little bit more time, a little bit more breathing room, because the timing stuff was really weird, especially the W.L.F and the Seraphites. We needed more of the overarching like looming threat. And to go back a little bit
Mm.
to the scene with Isaac and Elise, I don't know if this was just like a me thing. Where like sound off in the comments if this was you too. The writing felt a bit weird in this section for two reasons. The first one, kind of going to explain the second point, was if you are if you are taking somebody who in the game Abby's kind of like an adopted daughter to Isaac, and if you have somebody that you are raising up to be the next you to take over, wouldn't, your right hand people, such as Elise, know about it and not be so surprised when he says that? The sentence, comment about, like, oh, are you in love with her? You
Mm.
wouldn't be the first, basically like old man to fall in love with someone young. I thought that was weirdly out
Icky.
of place, and it
Mm.
did. It felt so icky. Like, what was the point of saying that? It didn't bring anything to the scene. It didn't bring anything. Honestly, we didn't, in my opinion, this is probably my biggest issue. We didn't need that scene at all. Why? Because all we need later is like, I have issues with Ellie going to the island enough, but
Hmm.
no, like getting a little flash of like this is the Seraphites, this is their island, and suddenly explosions as Ellie's going to the aquarium would have been enough just to be like, oh, the Seraphites
Yeah,
island is like starting to explode.
yeah,
Like, what the hell is going on? I think that would have been a really good cliffhanger. We didn't need the Isaac scene at all. All
yeah.
we needed was that, and we would have been good, and we would have had more time to expand on the aquarium and, other instances.
Yeah, I don't think we need it in this. I don't have a problem with that scene in general. I just don't think it belongs in Ellie's story. So
Hmm.
it need
Yeah.
it like you can set up that scene by having some like closed door meetings with Abby and have people being suspicious, even though there's nothing going on. But like some closed doors meetings with Abby trying to work her out with Elise in the background, going.
Oh, that would
Why
have been great.
why have they closing the door? There's something weird going on here. Like you can
Yes.
set it up like that
Yes.
in a different season. You don't need it in this season because it sounds weird here. My other point, just going backwards slightly, is that I don't think we can expand on the Seraphite W.L.F war in Ellie's arc. Because yeah, she meets a bunch of Seraphites. She meets a bunch of W.L.F. But does she do? She kills all of them. She doesn't give a fucking shit. She just kills everybody. And Ellie in the show is the same sort of thing as like Nathan Drake in Uncharted. Once you start killing people indiscriminately, the ones that she wants to kill have less weight, and they needed to keep Nora and Owen and Mel as
Okay.
weight. And I know she did kill a few. I'm not saying that she didn't, like in the radio station.
Violence becomes numb,
Yeah,
especially when you get to the people who need to be killed or that
yeah.
doesn't have plot armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she
Okay.
can't go around and kill 10 Seraphites here. For W.L.F here, she becomes a maniac. she loses her humanity in a TV show.
Mhm.
We think it's fun because we're playing a game and we want to kill some
That's a good point.
We
WLF.
do.
But
That's a good point.
it's different with clickers and it's different with infected because they ain't human. They just monsters. I want to smash their face in,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but not with real people. So
Oh,
Jesse, oh, go
oh,
on.
never mind. We're going to Jesse. Never mind. We're going to Jesse.
Okay,
We're good.
Jesse.
Sorry, I got excited. The best part about Jesse's story is okay, the second best part. Shimmer is alive.
Yeah,
He
crazy.
mentioned Shimmer's alive. I was I wasn't gonna cry, but I felt ecstatic and happy because in the game Shimmer's dead. And I noticed like an episode or two back, people are like, did they just like abandon Shimmer? Or is she just like out there doing whatever? And here we got confirmation. J.R.R. Tolkien would be so happy to know that this horse is alive. And I was very, very happy.
Anyway, Jesse, we got Shimmer, but Jesse.
Like Jesse's the one who brings the good news, in my defense. Jesse, Captain Wyoming. He's he's quite different in like the TV show version, and I actually quite like it. I do think they are hitting a bit too hard about community. I feel like that was a bit too much. Like we kind of
Mm.
we get it with like a comment or two, but it felt a lot and unnecessary. However, I do like that he is about community and helping his people. It made sense too for him to want to go after them with Tommy in the TV show version. I thought that was great. The conversations between him and Ellie, I quite enjoy because they're kind of butting heads. They have different opinions and ideas for how to go about what they're doing, and they still pull conversations directly from the game, especially when they are walking through and he finds out that that Dina's pregnant through basically guessing. I thought that was
That
a
was
great
really good.
moment to do that. In the game, it happens in the theater, but I like how he kind of goes about that, like saying, "Oh, I can't die," and she's not drinking alcohol, she's never taken anything, and he guesses. And the foreshadowing almost immediately after saying, we gotta, get through this because I can't die. All of the
Damn.
Sorry,
game
bro.
people and people who are like notice like the foreshadowing are just kind of like, oh no. I really enjoyed them putting that sentence in there to kind of foreshadow, but
It
we
was so
kind of
funny. As soon as he said that, I just said to myself, "Oh, bro, you are so dead right now.
you are I said that out loud. I was like, bro, you dead?
Oh, you're dying in
Bro,
about
you so
10
dead.
minutes."
Yeah.
Bruh.
Bruh. And we kind of move forward a little bit to this little bit with like the W.L.F and the Seraphites. I think it was really smart of Jesse. Jesse and Dina like personalities are very similar in this moment where he's like, Ellie, there's tons of them. Two of us, stay the fuck back. Like this isn't our war, this isn't our battle. I thought that was good. And getting a little bit more of that tease of the Seraphites and stuff, especially that kid who goes up to talk to the Seraphite is Isaac's like right hand man that he saves from the truck. I liked having him come back. So
Oh, right, I
getting
forgot
more
about him, yeah.
hints of him, yeah. And I'm really hoping to see a lot more of him in season 3 because I think he's a very interesting character in his journey. They end up making it to the bookstore, which is slightly different from the game. In the game, this is just like a explorable place, and in there's a lot in the bookstore, and I'll bring up the bookstore in my Easter eggs because that's basically all that's in here. But I was really happy that they brought in this location and Tommy, sitting there talking with each other. Or not Tommy,
Jesse.
Jesse
I was about to say,
talking with
Jesse?
Ellie about it.
There's a good reason for that though, because like they're
Yeah,
actively searching for Tommy. Tommy isn't part of the group. Like
yeah.
they're active, so it's not a a rallying point, is it, for Jesse and Tommy? Because
Hmm.
Tommy didn't go with anyone. He's just out there trying to kill people. Not in the
Yeah,
show.
yeah. So it made a lot of really good sense to have this be their point because Ellie doesn't tell, or they at least doesn't figure out about Abby being at the aquarium until they go up on the roof and have that conversation. So there's no way they could have met at the aquarium how they would do it in the game. And a lot of that conversation on the roof was very similar to the game. I really loved Ellie's speech in this moment. I thought it was a really, really great one. I really liked this almost like what felt like a turning point for Ellie, taking a look, seeing the wheel, seeing the whale, and putting together Abby's there, and suddenly nothing else matters. And that's what she freaks out on Jesse about is like, I gotta go do this thing. Abby is over there, basically, I'm gonna go. I get that you're about community and whatever. Tommy would want me to do this, which I think was a projection because Tommy in the game wouldn't want her to do that, wouldn't want her to just go off and after Abby. But seeing the complete change between like Ellie and Jesse saying, you know what? I hope you make it. And that's exactly what happens in the game too. And they separate from there.
Yeah, like Ellie's character assassination of Jesse was a little bit. No, no, it's a bit over the top, Ellie, Like you care about community as long as it's your community. You don't give a shit
Mhm.
about other people who just who are losing lives in this in like city. And he's like, well, yeah, actually, yeah. And what's your point?
Yeah.
I was gonna bring this up when we talk about Ellie's character, but I didn't like Ellie's speech here. I think it was cool in the sense that she saw the aquarium and realized, oh, that's where Abby is, and she was like, I'm going there. Tommy can take care of himself. I like that part of it, but when she started talking to Jesse about all the community stuff, and she was like, oh, why wouldn't you want to just save that one guy? I just wanted to be like, because logic, like
Yeah.
it's 2v6 and you're saving someone you don't know. I wholeheartedly agree with Jesse there that it's about preserving your community. It's about preserving Ellie's life and making sure they get back to Dina so that they can get her back home and things like
Mhm.
that. So it came off as like Ellie sort of spouting about our community, but you won't save this person, whatever. It came off as really entitled and bratty, which is not the way she should be coming off. She should be coming off as blinded by rage that she's literally gonna. In that scene, she should have been like, "Fuck you, I'm going to the aquarium," and to kind of be like, "I don't need reasons, I'm going, right?
He
I don't need
did.
to justify it, I'm going." Instead of trying to talk at Jesse and say, "Oh, you're about community," but like, what? It's like just leave, you know. Like she feels like she very needs. I'm gonna get to it when we talk about Eddie, but it feels like this whole season she's needed to justify herself for things, and attacking Jesse in this was kind of like just trying to be mean. And I think that they were just trying to build tension between these two characters so that they could complete Jesse's story. But it serves Jesse very much so in that scene, but it does not serve Ellie. It does not serve the story at large. So
I
I didn't
think it
like that argument that she made.
I think it kind of justifies it when they get back to the theater afterwards. When he talks about, look, I went and did it because you would burn down the world for me. And I think her yelling at him and talking about like community and other things kind of like changed something else in his mind where he's like, okay, maybe she is kind of right. I need to go after her, but also protect her because she's part of my community. So I think it only slightly justifies it in that like little sentence, but I totally get that.
For me, like I don't understand what you can't see in Rage. Like that, her whole speech was rage to me. It was a
No, it was.
justification, but it would like, so I don't understand. I just don't understand you wanted the words "fuck you," "I'm going anywhere," but it was that's what she was doing. She was just giving Jesse more of an out to let him go do what he wants to do. She's going anyway. She's made it clear, but
Mm.
she just didn't say "fuck you, Jesse, I'm going." Like
Yeah, it that came across, and that's what I liked about the scene is you've seen that sort of rage from Ellie, but I'm talking about the argument of community and stuff. It's like it felt like it was a bit bratty for her to use that as an argument. It's like why attack the fact that Jesse didn't want to save some random Seraphite? It felt a bit weird.
I mean, she's not cl thinking clearly. I mean,
That's a good point too. Yeah,
it's a good argument when you just want to get out of the situation and do what you
that's a
want.
fair point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And then the last thing about Jesse, he dead. He dead dead.
Dude, dude, I was
He's dead.
so happy because this is it, it was great seeing like the preview from last week with Jesse and Ellie running out of like the like amphitheater area and and all the comments and like Jesse, you should just stay there.
Duck.
And yeah, and this was exactly how it happens in the game. This is one of my favorite game deaths I have ever experienced because this game really opened up my eyes to not everybody has plot armor and not everybody should have plot armor because they're a good, like, great character that you enjoy. And having him just run out, bam, dead on the floor,
Finished.
and also shot in the exact same place as in the game was such a nice touch. Having that finality and the build up to I can't die, I'm going to be a father, and wrapping up his character in such an aggressive and abrupt way is is really good storytelling in my opinion because he doesn't have a future anymore and now Dina also has to live with that. I It's one of my favorite game deaths that I've ever.
It's brilliant because it's just so shocking. It comes out of
Yeah.
nowhere. If you're playing the video game and it's like you said, it's almost shot for shot exactly like the video game, where it just you hear something. And normally in movies and games, when you hear something, you go and investigate, and then it's like, oh, okay, let's start
Uh-huh.
sneaking around. Let's find out where that noise is coming from. As soon as they bust through the door, bam, just like
You
that,
see
Jesse's gone.
it.
And it's just
Oof.
brutal and shocking, and it's like, holy fuck, what just happened? And then you kind of take a second to breathe and you see Abby's pointing a gun straight at you as Ellie, and it's like, holy like
Yeah.
shit's getting real right now. And
Yeah.
that's it. Like it's so brilliant because the show does it really well, like the game did it, where everything kind of slows down for a bit and you have this quiet moment of like, okay, shit, we gotta go home because Dina's injured, Dina's pregnant. We got to give up on this and we got to go home. And you can see Ellie hates it. She's like, I want to stay here. And the show did that as well. She was like, I really don't want to leave, but I get it. And it's at that moment of like, okay, we got to go home, where Abby is like, nah, 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 not yet. And it's just great. It's like shocking and oh, it's awesome.
Well, my one pickiness on this is that I would have liked 1 or 2 seconds more focusing on Jesse's smashed up face and Ellie in shock. Just a couple of beats, just to let people understand that Jesse ain't coming back next season. Just he's not coming back. He's dead dead
Yeah.
and he's dead dead.
Rip
Yeah.
Jesse.
Cause in the game she sits there for a second and is like, Jesse?
hmm
Like, excuse me? Yeah, I agree with that. We needed just that little, like, 2 seconds worth.
A little bit more of
Yeah.
Jesse Smoosh. So we end it on Ellie and I guess Abby right at the end, but let's go Ellie.
I will kick it off and say that I've had my issues with Ellie this season. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going back on that. I feel like there's not enough rage in, or not rage, but there's just not enough anger in her portrayal. I do feel like it was an improvement this episode. She did seem a lot more down and like oh and whatever. And I liked seeing the rage at the end of the last or 2 episodes ago where she beat the crap out of Nora. I loved the reveal that she didn't actually kill Nora, but
Oh yeah.
she let the infection take her, which is just so much more brutal. We obviously see what she does later in the episode, which I'll get to, but it just comes across. I don't know if it's just maybe Bella Ramsey's choice, which I've never been crazy about. I said this in season one, and I wasn't super crazy about her. I think that Bella's doing a great job. Um, and they're an incredible actor, but it just I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it suits Ellie. And this season, I think the dynamic between Ellie and Dina felt very like almost like it's trying to cater to the younger crowd, where it's fun, it's like teenagers on a road trip kind of thing, and it just felt a bit lighthearted at times, where this is a dark, depressing, brutal story. And at times it just felt like Bella Ramsey's portrayal has just been cutesy and fun and things like that. And this episode I felt like was good, where you could see she was really feeling, the Ellie was really feeling it, and everything that she'd kind of gone through up to this point in the season. But it's still just it's just not clicking for me. I don't know exactly why, but it's just I don't know. It just I wanted to see more out of it, and I think maybe what I'm doing is just comparing the performance to Ashley Johnson's performance as Ellie in the video games, because I think that is genuinely one of the best performances by an actor in a video game ever. I think Ashley Johnson's Ellie in Last of Us Part 2 is incredible, and it's a lot to live up to. And maybe that's what I'm projecting onto to Bella's performance, is it's just not hitting the same heights, and it's not capturing that character enough. Overall, as the TV show itself, I feel like she's like a good enough job has been done on Ellie's character, and we've seen that sort of descent into madness kind of start. It's just not gone far enough for me, but we kind of seeing where that's coming. The way that she looked over when we were in when she was talking to Jesse, and she looks over at the aquarium, and you see her like realize, oh shit, the wheel,
Mm.
that's where I need to go to see that sort of. She was blinded in a moment and just had tunnel vision of like, okay, I've got to go there. Like Tommy's in danger or whatever, but it's fine. I got to go there. I loved that because that is what you wanted to see. It's just this blind fury of like, this is my goal. I need to go and murder Abby. So I like that, and there's just flashes of that kind of thing in the season. I just didn't see enough of, which is just a little bit disappointing for me, to be perfectly honest.
And I actually, this episode very specifically went in with the mindset of this isn't game Ellie. This is
Mm.
TV show Ellie. And I kept kind of repeating that to myself. And I did start to feel a little bit better because it is hard for us as game players to separate the two because we're so attached to the game and the original and how we felt and how we interpreted things that it can and is difficult for us to kind of break that connection and realize, okay, adaptation for TV show is going to be different. So I did feel a little bit better. There were some interesting writing and character choices between like the killing, not really killing, but like leaving of Nora, and then the things that happen in the aquarium didn't totally line up for me, but that's maybe just like a pacing thing. But I did feel a bit better trying to like almost like repeating a mantra to myself. Um, I'm also not a, this is a me thing. I'm not a big fan of a character crying all the time. And I think that
Mm.
also didn't sit well with me. I just, that's just a me thing. I don't enjoy like watching a character cry all the time. Seeing the that like descent into madness was really nice because it's pushing the character farther and farther and farther. And I had the thought too of why are they making her so like merciful, almost like remorseful and kind of like my issues with that. And I was thinking I know why they're doing that. And I think it's because spoilers, people, for the end of the game, which is most likely to be the end of the series, is Ellie's PTSD and wanting to go after Abby a second time and wanting to solidify that arc and actually not killing Abby in the end almost felt this wasn't how I felt with the game, but other people had felt this way about the ending was you were so fixated on revenge and killing this person and you have an opportunity again to kill them and you don't do it. People didn't enjoy that. I personally was okay with that because just a lot of things that we don't need to get into right now, but I was okay with it. I think they're doing it to make sense of the ending, showing more remorse for killing or leaving somebody and having those issues so then that ending is not as jarring and it makes it understandable why she would do that. So I think that that's what they're doing. And that made me a little bit more okay with it because it's more palatable in a show sense rather than a game sense.
See, yes, there's something else I've just thought of now that I just want to say, and I think it sums it up quite well. Is the reason I wanted to see more rage and fury and things from Ellie is because of the scenes, one of the scenes we get towards the end of the episode, which is actually brilliantly done, and I really really loved in this episode, which is the scene where Ellie confronts Owen and
Mel.
Mel. And obviously in the episode we see that she's got them both at gunpoint and she wants to know where Abby is, and then Owen tries to pull a gun on Ellie and she kills him,
That was a good
and
shot.
that was a great shot. And by mistake, clips Mel and hits her in the neck, and then she bleeds out. It was haunting seeing her on the ground and saying, "Cut out my baby, let my baby
Oh,
kind of survive." I was like,
So
"That's
much worse.
that's
So
that's
much
not gonna
worse than the
so
work."
much
game.
worse.
But I think to myself, "That's not gonna work. Please don't do that, Ellie. Don't even try and do that. I
I
can't watch
I
that."
even turned the volume down because I was like, this had better not be actually happening right now.
Oh, but I
I was
love,
like,
I
there's no
love that,
way.
I love that Mel said, "No, do that, do that, do that." Ellie's like, what do you want me to do?" And then
She
she didn't
didn't
go
equip
through
you
with
for
it.
that.
Exactly. And then Mel kind of just starts saying things as she sort of drifts away and dies. And that was a brilliantly well done scene. I really enjoyed that scene in the show. It's a really good scene in the video game as well. But what I love that they do in the game is that Ellie is so filled with rage and fury, and she's dead set on this objective of finding and killing Abby, and it leads her down a path where she kills Owen and a pregnant Mel, which has a parallel with Dina because Dina's pregnant as well.
Hmm.
Now, at this point, Ellie is blinded by her revenge to the point where she starts killing people, and when she sees that she's killed a pregnant lady, that's the moment where she's like, "Holy shit, I think I've gone too far."
The
And that's where
panic
she's
attack.
like, it's like shit, I've gone too far. And then she heads back to the theater and she's like, "Fuck, maybe we should go home because I've actually lost myself right now." And that's where Abby confronting them is such a great moment for that, because so spoilers for the game and perhaps for the beginning of season three, Abby confronts Ellie, and they have a big, it's like a boss
Hmm.
fight in the game, and Abby's about to kill Ellie, but then Lev tells Abby, "No, don't do it, don't kill Ellie," and then Abby lets Ellie go. And I think that's also Abby's moment to realize she's gone too far, because Abby kind of started this and has killed people as well. So I think it's two characters when they have that confrontation and leave, it's two characters that have realized revenge really is not the answer and they leave. And
Hmm.
that sets up the rest of Ellie's story so well because her PTSD doesn't want to let her let this go. And I just feel like Ellie doesn't have enough of that. Like, what PTSD is she gonna have? It doesn't look like she's really feeling it that much.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now that she's not going to have PTSD? It might not be about the
From
same
what?
fecking thing, but like she's already got PTSD for fucking Nora getting beating the shit out of her, torturing her, leaving her to die, and now she's just accidentally fucking killed a pregnant lady, and who's asked her to take the baby out to save it, and she doesn't do it, and the pregnant lady thinks she has. Are you kidding me that she's not going to have PTSD right now?
No, I get that. She's
That was
gonna
the
have
greatest.
PTSD about that. But what I'm saying, the PTSD in the game makes her want to go after Abby again, right? The PTSD in the show feels like she'll want to just completely abandon this. She doesn't want to take part in this anymore because it's an awful thing to go through. But
She
the
doesn't.
PTSD in the game makes her want to still do this,
She
even though she's
doesn't.
gone through all
She
that
doesn't
awful
want to do
stuff.
it in the game. Like she does it because Tommy asked her to, and she's scared that Tommy's going to do it on his own. And then there's like some sort of thing in her side which feels like I've got to finish a story here. Like Cody Rhodes, finish the story. But it's anyway. Carry on.
I totally understand both of your guys' points, and I don't want to go into it too much because I there's not much else to say other than like I totally get it. I want to say thank you to, you know, whoever's decision it was to remove Alice from the show. Alice is Abby's dog. And in the game, you get attacked by Alice and have to take out the dog. And that is the worst part of the entire game for me.
It's the
I,
only scripted dog kill that you can't get away from in the
Can't
game.
yep,
avoid, unavoidable.
yep. And I was actually really anxious for this episode because I was really scared that Alice was gonna be in it. So we start going through the aquarium, and I'm like, oh no, everything is perfect. Like, just like the lighting, the way things are set up. And there was no Alice, and I just let out the biggest sigh of relief. So thank you to whoever's big decision it was to remove Alice. We get two things in this episode that are the biggest of Flash like, or I guess not really flashbacks, but like indications for next season, is all of the like on the medical like tables in the
Hmm.
aquarium, the blood, the saw. That's going to be a huge moment. Spoilers in
Hmm.
season three, with Abby and is it Yara?
Yes.
Yeah, Yara, and having to take care of Yara's injury. And then we have Abby later with the burn, not but more like rope burns on her
Hmm.
neck from what looks like a hanging. And I actually do want to mention that a little bit because we're still talking about Ellie and the stuff with the island was a bit odd of a story choice for me. I actually thought they were going to change Abby's story a little bit because Abby also gets hung up and looks like they're gonna die from, a Seraphite sacrifice. And it's even almost exactly the same woman too, like the hair, the clothing, that hangs Abby. And I thought that they were gonna change and do that entirely with Ellie. And I honestly didn't see the point
Oh, it was a
of
totally unnecessary scene, that one.
A
exactly. It
hundred
was a
percent.
totally unnecessary. We didn't need that at all.
Mm-mm.
When we saw Abby at the end and has the rope burn on her neck, I another sigh of relief. Okay, good. They are still going to
We're
show
gonna
that they
get
didn't
that.
change
Hmm.
it. And I was like, well, then why did we see that with Ellie?
Hmm. It,
It
it
So
set
completely
up, just
unnecessary.
set up, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
I think it is. It was something I was going to say earlier, to add on to your point on that you made earlier was, like that scene where Ellie gets taken off felt so like unnecessary. Like why was it there? The scene like we were saying with Isaac at the beginning, it felt like we didn't really need that. And I liked
Yeah.
how they were hinting at the different things that were happening between the W.L.F and the Seraphites. But
Hmm.
one scene I loved was when Ellie's trying to find a boat, and then you see a whole bunch of boats arrive and all their lights go on. And that
mm,
was like haunting. It was like, oh, what the
Oh
hell?
yeah.
Where are they
That's
going?
all we really needed.
yeah.
Exactly. And then when Ellie gets that rogue wave and then washes up on the shore of the island, I wanted her to wash up on the shore of the aquarium and then
Same.
be like, okay, let me
Yes.
try and get here. And then she hears the explosions and she's like, what the hell? And then we get that shot of like something's happening over there. So now we have the audience thinking,
Hmm.
what the hell's happening there? We'll find out next season.
Yeah.
Instead of having Ellie
Yeah.
get onto this island, which seems really easily accessible. Because she was
Yeah,
able
it
to just
does.
wash up there, and then there was just another boat there, ready and waiting for her to just jump on and then get to the aquarium. It felt like a completely wasted couple of minutes.
Just kind of like the ending of the aquarium. Uh like that whole sequence, boy, did they really make that more intense than it was in the game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Once again, that neck shot, oh man, that was a great shot. I just had to say that again because I was like shockingly impressed. Um, but the end of it after Mel dies and having Tommy and Jesse show up was absolutely perfect. Because they more or less do the same thing in the game, comforting Ellie, who's basically having a panic attack, freaking out over what she just did, both in the game on purpose and then in the show, at least with Mel, on accident, was really poignant and important. And having Tommy there to basically comfort Ellie
Hmm.
was really important because she needed that. And then going back to like the theater and strategically covering her arm when she's sitting next to them so they don't see the bite. It was just nice seeing like the additional thought that went into her strategically hiding her arm in different ways because I was wondering about that, like, oh, how are they going to deal with her having another bite? That's kind of
Mm.
Mm.
obvious because she wears that was like the same
Yeah, yeah.
outfit, like short sleeves the whole time. And I think she is eventually just not going to care anymore. The ending sequence, the last 5 minutes.
Ooh,
Do
that
we
was
want to talk
Abby.
about that now or do we want to talk
Yes.
yeah.
about,
Let's
Let's
go,
talk about
Abby.
that.
yeah, Abby? Oh man, okay, this last 5 minutes was some of the best. And it's probably because it paralleled the game so perfectly because Abby bursts in and is takes out Jesse, and this is exactly how it goes in the game, pointing the gun at Tommy and telling him to just shut up. In the game she actually like I think kicks him in the face, but here she doesn't, which I thought was okay. Poor Tommy. She then freaks out at Ellie for like killing her friends and all these other people, because she thinks Tommy's the one who did it because sniper, taking things out. And Ellie takes it saying, no, I was the one who killed them. Don't blame him.
Well,
Uh,
he probably did kill one.
he probably did kill at
He
least
does.
one. It had to have been
Sorry,
Manny, I
Manny.
think, that he kills.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he at least took out one because I believe it's Abby who finds her two friends dead in the aquarium. So that's probably where she's coming from.
Yep.
Because I'm not sure how they'll do that sequence in the show, so that's why I'm assuming a little bit. And is freaking out at Ellie, and we hear that that pleading in Ellie's voice, like "Don't kill him," I'm the one you want, was also really closely paralleled the to the game, and how she's also kind of like pleading and struggling. And we cut to Black hearing a gunshot, and that's exactly how it is in the game too. Take a shot every time I say in the game.
Don't
The
do that.
only please don't, you'll die.
You'll get hammered. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Please don't do that. This is where I had kind of like a tiny bit of an issue. I enjoyed what they did with the show and how they went right into Seattle day one. However, I think they should have taken from the game a little bit more, because this is exactly where it ends in the game too, and you start the flashback of Abby. Abby's flashback starts with her hanging out with her dad, taking care of animals. We get an introduction to Owen and a little bit of a continuation of, her and her dad's relationship, kind of how it mirrors like the giraffe
Hmm.
scenes with Joel and that attachment, and then her going in and finding her dad killed.
Yeah. But they
And
didn't
I
have time. Let's come on. If you're gonna
but if
tease
they
Abby, like
but if
you,
they had taken out the Seraphite Island, they could have had time.
it's too much. It's too much
Mhm.
of a like hard left turn. Like that, you can't go and do the last 20 minutes of just Abby. Doing
Okay,
ending the
okay.
last like scene on Abby makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I see. I agree with that,
I
and I think very much what they're going to do in season three is a bottle episode like we had in this season, where it's the
okay.
flashback where we see Ellie going to the museum with Joel and doing all that stuff. I think we'll have a whole episode dedicated to Abby growing up, and then that 5 years between Joel doing his thing and the present
Hmm.
day. I think we're definitely going to get a bottle episode
Okay.
like that. But
Because that
because
was
I'd
gonna
like them
be
to flesh it out more instead of just be
mhm.
20 minutes or something short like that.
Yeah, because that was going to be my question, is like what did you guys like think about that, or are they like getting rid of that entirely, because I really love that sequence, but that makes me
No
feel a
way.
little bit better. I know people, including myself, have had issues with Abby not being, Jack. There is just something about her, about Deaver, that is so much like Abby. There's still this heaviness to the way that she carries herself as Abby that feels just like her. And just like the way that she like wakes up and starts walking around the stadium. I felt Abby in that moment, because we're playing her, in the game point, and I was like, this feels like Abby, and that was it. It continues to solidify that Devers was a great choice for Abby, despite the physical I wouldn't say like issues is not like the correct word, but like the physical changes. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I feel a bit better about this. And the looking over at the stadium and seeing how like beautiful that they've turned it. And we know the WF are not exactly great
Yeah.
people, nobody is. Um, but how much they've done with this, and we see the, like the Seattle day one. Oh,
Yep.
chef's kiss. So good. Great way to end it.
I think it was a really good way to end it because it showed day one. And for those who play the game, we obviously know, cool, we're gonna go back to day one and we're gonna see Abby's story. But I think those who are just watching the show who haven't played the game, I think they're kind of thinking, ooh, what? Why day
Mm-hmm.
one? And that makes sense. Why are we not seeing Abby all season? Are they gonna? So I think they did a really good job of explaining. Listen, we're gonna go back for a little while, and it was a nice touch. But just to go back on that thing about Caitlin Diva, like when she arrives in the theater and she's wearing that jacket
Mm-hmm.
and she's got the gun pointed at Tommy. It was exactly that. I liked Abby in the game because it was this nice representation of a more masculine looking, or not more masculine, but more muscular, feminine person, which was great because people come in all shapes and sizes, and that's great to
Mm-hmm.
see that sort of representation. But at the same time, Caitlyn in this episode when she's holding that gun and she just feels powerful. She just feels like this is a threat. This is like she rocks up. We haven't
Yeah.
seen her the whole season since
Yeah.
episode 2. She rocks up in this episode and you're like, damn, that is the final boss. And I was like, I that got me amped. That is the reason I'm gonna watch season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is how you reintroduce a character. And I was like, damn. And then you see her in the next scene where she's walking around the stadium, and again, you don't see her big, bulky, muscular. But I was like, I'm so invested in this character, and I just loved. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to see more of Abby this season because Caitlyn just knocked it out of the park.
Oh,
Great choice.
so excited.
I worry about people who haven't played the game drop off here.
I am
Because
too.
like Abby is the boogeyman, Abby is the villain, Abby is a dick. Abby, I don't want to see.
Abby's a
I'm
dick.
sorry. I don't want to see the Scar film. I don't want to see the Cruella film, although the Cruella film is all right. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Maleficent. Sorry, Lily. I know you love Angelina Jolie, but I don't want to see a villain backstory. I played the game. I know what's coming. I want to see what Abby's story's like. I don't know now that you're teasing a whole season of villain backstory, how
Mhm.
many people come back for season three?
Especially because especially because we've played the game, we know that they're going to teach us that she's not actually a villain.
Hmm.
She's not. But in a show sense, you're absolutely right. Some people, a lot of people, which I have seen, is people saying, Abby, no, absolutely not. I'm out. And which really sucks because it is some impeccable storytelling and understanding like who we think is the villain in that moment and learning more about them and realizing, oh, they're doing exactly what Ellie does and understanding that whole aspect. I wonder if like people won't start watching season 3 until other people kind of convince them, hey, you really do want to watch season 3 and here's a little tease as to why, and that brings people into it. So I'm hoping that's what happens because you're right. People think of this as like the villain origin story when it's really not a villain origin story.
Do you want to do your Easter eggs and then we can do the final wrap
Yeah, yeah,
up?
yeah. Some fun little not like kind of like Easter eggs is the when we get into Seattle day 3 and we see the sign that usually shows like what play is being shown. It says ABI, which I thought was kind of like fun for like Abby. They don't parallel exactly like what is shown in the game, but I thought that was cool. There's another one in the background where we see I'm not sure exactly what point it is, but there along the buildings is this red like walkway, not really like a walkway, but this scaffolding, that's the word, stretching across a couple of buildings, which
Yes.
directly parallels a part in the game where Abby and Lev walk across it because that's when they start talking about how the Seraphites move around and get to where they need to with avoiding the W.L.F. And that's where we learn a lot more about Abby's fear of heights. So maybe we'll
I
have
did
that.
I did during that sequence, I did actually pause because I wanted to see it's roughly around about the same time that Abby's actually doing that. So I actually paused because I wanted to see
I
if
got a
like maybe
photo
you
too.
could just sort of see Abby, but I couldn't see anything.
I couldn't see anything either, but
That would have been a cool touch. Like you
that
see
would
like
have
a
been really
little
just
figure, like
like
maybe
two
just
little
falling down or
figures.
something. Yeah. Oh, that would
Oh,
have
that
been
would have been.
cool.
And did anybody else purposefully kill Abby in that moment when you're playing the game? Because I sure
Not
did.
in that moment, but a ton before that.
I did do that too. So most of the Easter eggs here are coming from the bookstore. There's a lot of really cool things here. Um, we get a little bit of parallel to what is happening in the show with the writing on the wall, which the writing on the wall,
Mhm.
which is everything's got a moral if only you can find it. So that's going to have a lot of like underlying meaning. We also have a lot of Naughty Dog yellow in this sequence, which I, of course, thoroughly enjoyed and sent photos to a couple of friends saying, hey, look, here's that Naughty Dog yellow I was talking about. Because I had a friend who has played all of the games and didn't know about the Naughty Dog yellow. So we had fun talking about that. But we have one of the books, which is like I think it's the monster at the end of the book, and it's with Grover from Sesame Street. And I thought that that was such a cool thing to bring in because what Grover's trying to do in the book is stop you from finding the monster at the end of the book, like literally the title. And you find out that basically Grover is the monster. And that was a fun parallel to Ellie finding out like they are also a monster at the end of this. Abby is also a monster at the end of this. We might be the monsters at the end of this. Was a really interesting book placement and I thought was really nice. Something that was cut from the uh the sequence there because we have Alice in Wonderland on the wall and in the game they make a comment about mushrooms not having the same meaning back then. I thought that would have been a little call out to the mushrooms that are on the wall. So we get to Abby waking up and she's reading a book called Thieves of the City. And several of us, went and researched, what exactly is that book. There's not really anything because I think it's a parallel to City of Thieves, which is actually kind of a weird deep cut for HBO because the book title that's supposed to be is actually a book written by one of the Game of Thrones writers. And they just kind of like flipped the title around, which was interesting. So I'm unsure why they did that, but that was kind of like a weird thing to throw in there. I don't listen to the podcast, but I saw somebody make a comment that they in the official podcast that they are teasing the Rat King several times in the podcast. So that gives me extremely high hope that it will be there. It has to
It
be.
It's
can't not
iconic.
be.
Exactly. So it was nice hearing that like they really are teasing it a lot more. There's kind of just like a lot of little things here and there, but those are kind of like the big things that I noticed that I think people would enjoy. So please let me know any Easter eggs that you found or even just like the little things because they're fun to see and they're fun to make connections to between things.
Well, that's the end of the spoiler section. Let's do a final episode ranking of this finale, please.
Yeah, I must say I'm a little bit let down by this episode because it is a finale. You kind of want the crescendo of boom, everything. Like I said, not everything has to be resolved because there is going to be a season three, but I did want a little bit more closure on some things. I feel like that's not that much of an issue to me, but it did feel like there was some loose ends that I feel like needed a little bit of tightening up. They didn't have to be completely closed, but it's things like the whole stuff with Isaac. I feel like why did we go through any of his story if we didn't really figure out where it was going? And his first scene felt completely unnecessary. The scene with Ellie on washing up on the Seraphite Island felt unnecessary. It was just a bit chunky and things like that. And just looking over the season as a whole, there's characters that haven't developed like I wanted them to. But overall, I think that the season has been good. It's been good television. It's been entertaining, and it's been faithful at times to the game, which is nice. It's definitely its own take on it. Um, but this just didn't feel like it hit hard enough. And it just most specifically, I think is a point we made earlier. This would have been really good as a mid-season finale. Like if
Mhm.
they told us this was episode seven, but we've got another seven episodes coming in 2 months' time, we would have been like, cool. But now we're gonna wait 2 years to get another seven episodes. Like it just feels like we didn't get enough this time around. And so for those reasons, this week I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Still
7.
not bad, but I definitely wanted more.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with that, which obviously I have been doing it was the entire season.
My mind is your mind. Your mind is my mind.
Basically, it's nice having someone else who thinks similarly to you, but also challenges you, which is great to have like three or even sometimes four hosts to be able to challenge each other's thoughts and I quite enjoy that aspect of this podcast a lot. My biggest issues were some very unnecessary things were placed in this episode that I talked about that I've had issues with, um, and just like pacing. The pacing was kind of like fine. It was just more like the unnecessary things that we don't need in this episode. If this was a mid-season finale and then we got maybe another 7 episodes after that, or whatever we needed, I would have happily waited another year to have that. I think that would have been a great
Exactly.
idea.
Hmm.
That would have been such a great way to do that. I'm going to give it a slightly higher rating because um I'm trying to understand and separate Ellie game versus Ellie uh in the show, and understanding like those motivations a little bit more. So I'm gonna give it like a 7.5 out of 10, mainly because of those issues with the story itself and unnecessary details is why it's getting a lower rating. But boy, did that last 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now that's how you do like an ending. It's just the issues of getting there that was the problem.
I'm going to give it an 8. I'm a little bit more forgiving on most of the things because I accepted at the end of season one that
Yeah.
this isn't my show, this isn't my game that I love. This is the show, and I think it's been pretty consistent throughout. The finale. Now, if this wasn't a finale, if we didn't call this a season two finale, I'd be giving this an 8.5, 9.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah.
The very essence of a cliffhanger, it felt such a like like, don't get me wrong, it's a good cliffhanger, but the way they've left it doesn't isn't conducive to a 2 year wait. Not for me.
100%.
It doesn't feel right. There are some issues with content here, which because they are sprinkling things in, which would be okay if you were going to follow up with this in a month's time, but not for 2 years' time.
Yeah.
My only issues come here, apart from the Seraphite Island bit, which I don't like at all, is the finale-ism of it. This feels like Fast X. Where's Fast 11? Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to be left on this rubbish cliffhanger for 2 years. I think I would even like it more as a cliffhanger if we heard the shot and and did the black screen and then didn't get a follow-up with Abby. It wouldn't work from what they're going to set up next season,
Mm.
but as a finale cliffhanger, that works better.
I think so too.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. It reminds me of like an old school sort of like early 2000s drama show
Yeah.
cliffhanger where it's a gunshot and then it's like you got to wait until like 6 months time until the next season comes out. And it that is so much more impactful as a finale, but now they kind of set it up like, oh, here's a little taste of it and we're not going to show you what happens with that gunshot right away. We're going to start here. So it's setting up things. Go,
However,
sorry, yeah.
Oh,
a lot of stuff is really good here, and I really liked the change that they did with Mel and how they portrayed that, and I really liked Ellie's slower introduction to PTSD in a different sort of way.
I wanted to kind of ask you guys as a final sort of question. Do you think that them only doing 7 episodes and then being like, oh, we're gonna make a season three, do you think that's maybe a little bit of beating a dead horse? Like I'm thinking instead of 7 episodes for season two, maybe they could have done 12 and did the whole story in one go.
I don't think they could have got it done in 12.
You don't think so?
No, five
Or even
episodes.
14 or even like 14 episodes, but like give us the whole of the
yeah.
second game in one season instead of like, oh, here's half of it and then
I
we're gonna
don't
make
think
you
they can
wait
get it done in
3 years.
14. Like that, the whole. I don't think they can get the prologue, the epilogue stuff with and on the island. Well, I don't think they can get that done in 14. I think there's going to be 4 series here, and the last
Okay.
one is going to be in the epilogue stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
I think next
Yeah.
season they're going to finish Seattle itself, and then I
Yeah.
think the rest of the story is sort of going back to Jackson and seeing Ellie kind of having that real PTSD, and then going to Santa Monica. I think that's going to be season four. And I think the Rattlers are going to be the big sort of bad guys in season 4 because we don't get much
True.
of them in the game, and I hate that because they're so good
Hmm.
Which
and
I
they're so
which
scary.
which I think the game is really good at, or not the game, the show is doing really good at is taking those like small groups or characters that we don't get a ton of and being able to have that ability to expand, I think is great. So I think we are going to get exactly that in the fourth
Mm.
season is that expansion that we really want to see.
Well, I think that does us for the rest of us podcast on Couch Soup, watching now the Last of Us recap show. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll be back for in 2 years
See you in
for
2 years.
for series three.
Ah,
Watching now isn't going away either. We'll be back for a few specials in the next few weeks. We'll let it be a surprise what they are, but they're pretty good episodes, I think. Pretty damn good. If you liked this, like, subscribe, become a member of CouchSoup if you can possibly afford it and support independent creators like us. But for now, we'll have to say on
endure and survive.
endure and survive, everybody. See you later. Bye.
Bye.